Alright guys, so here we have a install here that I'm putting up for sale. This is the KR Sabers Revan hilt. It is very accurate to the video game from Knights of the Old Republic. The Revan lightsabers has two tactile switches for main activation, power, and of course auxiliary things such as blaster block, lock up, force effects, and things like that. This is not the easiest of builds. There are some tricks to the switches when installing these. So I'm going to actually take the whole thing apart right in front of the camera and show you how I did all this. Let's just start off with the hilt by itself. Beautiful work. The machining is excellent. All aluminum with a solid copper throat part here. It's got a nice pommel, which is also vented. I'll show you that in a second, which has a nice gunmetal gray highlight paint job to it. Really nice paint job. And the stripes inside the hilt seem to be the same gunmetal. I also am including, this is a 1.5 millimeter Allen key. I am also going to include this really nice kind of aged copper, well it was copper, but now it's kind of aged copper blade plug, which really suits the hilt very well. In fact, it fits so perfect that it looks like it belongs there. And then of course you can see that solid copper in there. Now, as with all copper or brass, it will tarnish. I've taken a piece of steel wool and just kind of rubbed it just to keep it clean. If you choose that you want to keep it nice and shiny, you could always take this apart, and I'm going to show you how to do that, and spray some clear over it after you've got it nice and polished up. Spray some automotive clear coat. You can get it out of a rattle can. As long as you don't put too thick of a coat on there, you should get a nice shine to it. I chose not to weather this. I like the nice clean look to it. So let's go ahead and I'll take it all apart. This is running, believe it or not, I'm using the Prism 4 on this because I'm running the LED. I did not do a NeoPixel on this. So the install is a Prism 4 with a removable battery and a Tri-Cree red, green, blue. You can see that in there. LED. Now, what I went ahead and used almost all KR Saber parts. This hilt is not available from KR at the moment. I believe Corbin actually bought some stock from KR and is now has them available for purchase on their website. So you can check that out at corbith.com and see if there's any available there. So let's just start. I think what we'll do is we'll take the back pommel off and we'll show you how this all works. It really has a one-piece chassis design that goes all the way up, and it's tricky but yet simple at the same time once you get used to it. So let's just unscrew the pommel and I'll show you this. The pommel has all these little ridges here which will allow plenty of sound to get out. Okay, so that's nice there. This pommel actually does unscrew to let the blocks, come off. I actually dabbed a little glue on there and screwed it back on so it comes off in one piece. Because sometimes you can have a problem where the pommel can get locked in there pretty tight and you're trying to unscrew it and only part that's coming off is this part, and that doesn't really do you any good. So we'll set that aside for now. And as you can see in here is a 28 millimeter speaker, so you're getting full. This is a KR speaker, by the way. So you're getting full 28 millimeter high bass sound. The other parts that come off are the main emitter, and I'll show you. There's really two ways to do this. You can take the main emitter off, and you can take the copper neck part off. I also used some synthetic grease in here so that it should come off nice and easy every time you want to use it. And this is just a sleeve, just an aluminum sleeve that goes on there. And then you can see the LED right there. This is all one piece here. Now the tricky part to this, actually before I go any further, let me just show you one other thing. You can put the copper sleeve on here, put this back on. I'll show you another way just to do this. If you're taking the saber apart to change the battery or sound the SD card and whatnot. So let's just put this back together the way I had it. You can hear that that's nice and smooth. The grease does that. You can actually grab it from the neck and just take the whole front off. So you can actually just do that. And then you can just save that just like that, set that aside. And then you can see there's your LED module in there. Now if you look carefully, you'll see two little notches there and there, which are channels that allow for these little switch plungers to slide through. So in essence of this also, before I forget, when you take the pommel off, there is a ring here which adds to the length of the chassis, which keeps it from rattling around here. When I first ordered the chassis, I didn't realize that, and I had some movement playing, and then I finally realized I found this part in the box and realized that that was what was missing. So you don't want to lose that. So what you can do is very carefully push out here. Now I suggest, there's a couple ways you can do this. I suggest that you turn these to the bottom side and you start pushing. Oops, I pressed it. And you start pushing the chassis out. You can just give it a push and it'll completely slide out. And as you can see, it is a one solid unit. And here's and the tactile switches are still, not the switches, but the plungers are still in place. So you can set that down carefully. And as you can see, this is a one-piece unit. There is a master on-off switch. So for long-time storage, I would suggest turning it off. But since the Prism does have a deep sleep, it's not necessary to turn it off all the time. So, but to turn on main activation, that's a Revan sound font. And we've got a keep power battery in here, and for longer life, because you don't want to be, because this saber is so tricky to get those switcher plungers back in, we went with a longer life battery so that you don't have to keep changing the battery all the time. Now, of course, when replacing the battery, do not use metal. The positive is down here, the negative is here. I don't have anything with me to take the battery out right now. That's plastic. Where is my plastic? Well, I can't find it right now, but you would take it from one side or the other. Just pull the battery out, and you can use a charger like this or any other battery charger that you have. In fact, I'll include this with the saber. This is a nice simple battery charger for a single battery. It fits the 18650 lithium-ion battery, and it will charge. There's a little light right there. It'll be red when it's not charged. It'll turn green when it is charged. So, you know, pretty self-explanatory there. So, the whole thing about putting this saber back together now is that we've got those switches in there, and we want those switches to slide through these channels so that those plungers can actually activate the switches that are here. Alright, so this could be a little daunting now. So let me give this a try. It's going to be hard to do on camera. But what we want to do is we want to turn this around to face yourself. Now I'm going to turn it around and face myself here. And what I want to do is I want to slide to where the notches are going to line up with the switches and then push it back in. So I'm going to do that facing myself here. I can see the switches, and I'm going to come through the back side. I'm going to give it just a little bit of force, not much. It fits pretty snug. The chassis was designed by Cal at KR Sabers. And when I get to the point here, I'll show you. Now, you can see right there that we are now lined up with the switch plungers. Okay, now I'm going to give it a push and see, and sometimes they'll go right in, and it did. So now we're all the way in. I'm going to push it back out and show you what problem you could have is if, let me push it out a little bit more, if those plungers, I mean, they're just little pieces of metal, and you can take them out, put that back in. I mean, it's really not a big deal. Some tweezers, or if you have small enough fingers, if they do fall out, you can put them right back in. But the idea is to have them in a way, turned in such a way that they will go through the channel that the LED module has. So we were able to get, let me see this again. We were able to get this lined up and pushed right back in, but now I turned it again. So as you can see, okay, so that actually didn't take me very long at all. And all I did was I took the needle nose and I just turned them. It was just freestanding in there. And I just turned them so that they would line up with the slot. And now I can push my chassis all the way in. I don't want to push on the speaker too hard, because you can ruin the speaker. So we'll take our time and press on the outer side of the speaker down. We're all the way in and can't go any further because the switches have now caught to as far back as they're going to go. So we'll put our spacer back in, put our pommel back on, there's your pommel, and since we kept this in one piece, this is nice and easy. Screw this back on, so it's nice and tight, and now we have two nice so as you can see, it's working pretty good. So we have two tactile switches now that work good. It looks like we may be off a little hair. Actually, not sure what happened there. There we go. Okay. Back on. Yeah, okay. Screw this back on. There we go. You know, as I said before, you have the blade plug. Changing colors is both buttons at once. And of course, this is for a 1-inch blade. So we grab a 1-inch blade right here. Okay, 1-inch blade. We could tighten up our 1.5 millimeter screw here, and I can see better the flash on clash. Of course, every color combination is different. That's a nice red. Nice ice blue. Yellow. Purple. And so on and so on. You can keep going through. And of course, these are all changeable through the SD card. So you can set up your SD card the way you like it to have the colors that you like. With this particular hilt, I'm fond of the red. Kind of like the purple too. So the purple's kind of neat. And you got flash on clash. And we'll pop that blade back out, and I'll go through the fonts with you. But that was a Vader's Vault 1-inch blade that I was using right there. Here to protect ourselves, we'll put the blade plug back in. different fonts, and we can go through them right now. There's 6 sound banks in here. You can load it with any fonts you want. I have 6 loaded on here. To be honest, I forgot most of the fonts that are on here. I know, I believe Spitfire is on here. The Revan font, the original Revan font is on here. And then a couple boot up sounds, and we'll go through them right now. And all you have to do is hit the auxiliary button twice to do that. It has a very nice sound. And again, it doesn't matter what sound font you're on, you can change the colors. Alright, we'll move on to the next font.
Nightfall.
Nightfall, that was one that... Let's go on.
Gray meat.
Gray Meat, it was a classic, comes stock with most of Collector Labs boards. It's actually still to this day one of my favorite fonts. Very nice, crystal clear, a perfect volume.
The Old Republic Malign.
This is the Old Republic font. Kind of a weird one. Kind of a ghostly kind of font. Again, you can always change the colors. Oops.
Shatterpoint.
Shatterpoint is a good one. I think we're getting close here. And here we are back on the Revan font. So that's the Revan music there. And there's your Revan font. So there you have it. So this is available for purchase now. This will come with the hilt and everything inside the hilt, and that's it. If you need a battery charger, please request it. I will send this with it. This is a simple battery charger. If you already have one and you don't need it, then you really don't need this. You will need a 1.5 millimeter Allen key. Easy enough to find. And other than that, I think I did a pretty good job explaining on how everything is. As far as the condition of the saber, a couple little smudges. I'm going to polish it up, clean it up real good before I send it on its way. Maybe a few micro scratches here and there may show up. Looks like a little one right there, maybe. But other than that, I bought it new, installed it new, and I've run it through its paces, and it's held up really well. So that'll about do it. If there's any questions, of course, feel free to reach out to me and ask me. I'm going to let this go at a very affordable price, considering what the hilt costs and the labor that goes involved with putting, the chassis and the LED module and all that together. I'm going to try to keep this down as low as I can, because I know it's the Christmas holiday, or the holiday season's coming up, and I want somebody to get a nice Christmas present. And and enjoy it and give it a good home. It's also a great display piece. I've had this sitting on one of my display shelves, and it looks great. So, any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching, guys.